this is Joy Bramble, publisher of the Baltimore Times. I'm going to remind you to pick up our Baltimore Times every Friday for your good news stories.
I'd like to welcome you back. We're here at the Best of Black Baltimore, presented by the Baltimore Times newspaper. We got the one and only, y'all know him as an entrepreneur, you know him at he's Afro Free, you know him at what's the new restaurant?
Everybody Loves Brunch.
Everybody Loves Brunch. I know him from being a poet, not a Dunbar poet.
That's right.
A Park Heights poet.
That's right.
What was the name of it? Sons of
Robeson.
Sons of Robeson. Y'all don't know that. This Baltimore history right here.
Yes, sir.
What we got here, man?
Hey, man, we took home two awards. One, Jazzy Summer Nights. Of course, this is the last and final season. We're going to do it big. 6 big shows in Baltimore. We moved it from the peninsula back down to the city. So we rolling. And this is for the garage. I leased it for 7 years, but I purchased it last year. My first $1 million purchase. Hey, baby, we're trying to make something happen.
To God be the glory.
To God be the glory.
Now, I got to ask you a serious question.
Yes, sir.
Pimlico Racetrack.
Yes, sir.
You come from that area.
All day.
You got the Afro Creek going on. Our concern as a community
Talk about it.
is how those businesses,
Yes, sir.
them Caribbean restaurants,
Yes, sir.
Axis, Blue Caribbean,
Yes, sir.
the Trinity spots,
Yeah.
up and down, how will they benefit from the Preakness?
Well, this is what I say. When we started Afro Creek, the first thing we did is we tapped the Blue Caribbean and they catered Afro Creek. All right, and we've been consistent for letting Park Heights restaurants be a part of that experience as caterers as well as vendors inside, behind the Golden Gates. So we're going to continue that this year, all right?
I say that, Jack, because when the Preakness comes, they can't have anybody park in front of their establishments. They get shut out.
Right.
And I thank you for the work you've done.
Yeah.
Just before you, Michael Johnson
That's right.
tried to bring attention to our businesses.
Yes, sir.
We know about the other people's businesses.
Yeah.
But you know, we could, just while you down at the garage, you
Yes, sir.
a lot of Black Wall Street type events.
All day. I just did an event tonight. I mean, the garage is right there at Station North, 6 East Lafayette, 1 block from Penn Station. So historically, the Gatsby's was down there. Historically, Odell's was in that district. So I'm just following the tradition. I'm not special.
I got some
I'm just
history.
following the tradition.
Do you know the name of Odell before it was Odell?
I don't.
Crystal
Ballroom. I do know that. I did know that. My mother told me about it.
He has so much history. What does it mean? You got a black mayor from Park Heights.
Yes, sir.
What does it mean? And he says he's the blackest mayor in all of America.
He's black.
Considering all you've done, business, arts, how significant is our blackness in Baltimore?
I mean, the blackness in Baltimore is bigger than the harbor, right? Because we've always been a fighting force in the country. So we don't have Baltimore by virtue of somebody giving it to us. If we go back to 1850, we'll see there was 25,000 free black men and women fighting for the rights that we have right now. So again, I'm not doing anything special. I'm continuing to be a part of that fighting tradition. Whether we're fighting to make sure that we have black presence at Afro Creek, whether we're fighting to make sure we have black presence at the Baltimore Peninsula, whether we're reshaping the industry of fashion with the Baltimore Met Gala, whether we're challenging the Korean ownership of 85% of the black breakfast markets with Everybody Loves Brunch, everything we do is a revolutionary. And we know that on Division Street, Thurgood Marshall was born on Division Street. Kwame Nkrumah was born on Division Street. I'm just in the tradition. I study a little bit of history too.
You know, Kwame Nkrumah's name before it was Kwame. We're gonna save that for the next show.
Wait, Peanut. No.
He said it, not me. For self-praise.
Keep
watching the Doni Show. We're here with the one and only award-winning entrepreneur, artist extraordinaire, businessman right here in the city of Baltimore, DJ. Well, I'd like to welcome you back to the best of Black Baltimore right here at the Inner Harbor. Special thank you to David Bramble, the developer, the owner of the Inner Harbor.
Indeed.
Joy Bramble, but we got a guru. My daddy always told me to pay homage. When the first contract, I think the very first contract I got when I went into business, the tobacco contract, was with 21st Century Group, Mr. Adrian Harpool. He was the CEO. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Good to see you, Donnie.
We're still here. What do you think of the Baltimore Times?
It's phenomenal. Well, first of all, I'm a subscriber to the Baltimore Times. It's free, but I make sure I pick it up every week. There's the good news about Baltimore, the things that you're missing in other papers. So that's the first thing is I want to see the paper. Secondly, this celebrating black business is critical. A lot of us saying they want to do business with us, they don't know who we are. A lot of these people don't have storefronts. And depending upon where you live and where you travel, you'd never come in contact with them. So the Baltimore Times in this project, Best of Baltimore, gives you an opportunity to go online, learn about businesses in every category that you wouldn't have known about otherwise.
I gotta say this. We gotta get you before you go. The Baltimore Times owner, David, owner's son, and you have been neighbors.
Indeed.
Now, how fortunate is it to have such, and I say that, to have such talent right in inner city, right off North Avenue?
Yeah, we live in the 1800 block of Madison Avenue, a block over from McCullough, right? And down 2 blocks from North Avenue. And David was born and grew up there. I lived there for a dozen or more years, was very active in the Civic Association. But it was good to have, you know, one of the things we talk about our youth and how they're challenged, they don't see examples of what people view as success, right? They're watching Power, they're watching Raising Cane and all of that. To them, that's what making it is. And oftentimes, the people who criticize them are nowhere in proximity. So I still live in the immediate area. I live a block off of White Lock, right? Because it's important for young people to know
that you can come from these places
and you can stay there.
Yeah.
The success isn't about getting out of there.
Because so often we get a little bit of paper.
And we're going. We're going to Pikesville. We're going to Owings Mills. We're going to wherever. And again, we take ourselves out of proximity of young people. So many of us were inspired by young people, by people like that, and I hope to do the same.
Anybody running for office, should they call you?
If you've done
you know what I know, you better call them.
If you've done your fundraising already, don't call me to raise money.
Tell me about Joy Bramble.
Joy's phenomenal. So first of all, talk about David Bramble and what he's done. Joy sent him to school on money from the Baltimore Times. So the Baltimore Times educated him and his sister, who's an attorney. They got Ivy League educations with the money that they made with the Baltimore Times. She's a phenomenal visionary. This is just one of the programs. They've done stuff on financial empowerment, there's stuff on home ownership, on health. So Joy's been at this a long time, and now she's coupled with Paris, who is a dynamo. She's got so much energy, it's hard to contain it. And they make a tremendous couple, a tremendous pair.
Why are you an entrepreneur?
I learned early on that my energy up into someone else to become a millionaire. I did that several times with several people. And I kept looking and I said, what's wrong with this equation? Because I'm still working for other people. And ultimately, it's been 30 years now. I've been on my own. I get up every day. I don't think I could work for someone else.
I got a question for you. Our mutual friend, Ricky Smith, was running BWI Airport. And this is about what we can do. Because there's always the negative about what we can do. When you see a Ricky Smith go from BWI to Jackson Hartfield International in Atlanta, what do you think?
Well, first of all, I'm proud of that. I've known Ricky for 20 plus years. He's worked hard, he keeps his head down, he gets it done. It's our loss at BWI, obviously, but it's the world's game. Hartsfield, Atlanta is the busiest airport in the world. And I'm going down there. I'm going to set up an office in Atlanta, and I'm going to work with
I'm coming with you.
I'm going to work with Ricky in Hartsfield.
Good stuff. Any final thoughts for the Baltimore Times, Best of Black Baltimore? Beautiful venue. We can say it's black owned.
It's a black owned. And in fact, I think
At the harbor.
the irony is that this area was where there was a slave auction. It was a slave auction block. And now to be owned by and run by a black developer, and if you've seen the plans and what this is going to be, it's phenomenal. So I'm just proud to be here. I'm going to keep coming. And you all better get here.
Thank you, Adrian Harpoon.
Thank you.
You're watching the Best of Black Baltimore right here on the Donnie Glover Show. Stay tuned. We'd like to welcome you to the Donnie Glover Show. We have with us a friend, a mentor, a business person, an entrepreneur, someone I truly, truly adore. When I first started BMoreNews, this woman here, Joy Bramble, and the Baltimore Times family gave BMoreNews.com such phenomenal support. We're here today at the Best of Black Baltimore at the Harbor, and we want to speak with her. How are you today?
Oh, wonderful. It's a very wonderful occasion.
Well, we're glad to be here.
It's been a long, long, long time. Yeah.
40 years of Baltimore
40
Times.
years. You know, I must have been 2 when I started this paper. I think I was 2.
Yes, you are. And it's a family effort.
Family effort. It's interesting that now we're here at the Harbor, owned by my son. I have to be very proud because I got to put that thing in. They're right there for that. Yeah. He was well brought up, right?
Yes, he did not forget home.
No, that's right. He came back home. I always wanted to stay in Baltimore. And he went away to college and whatnot. And he says, no, I'm going to live in Baltimore. And that's it. He was right. Yeah.
What made you start the paper?
Well, you know, we moved here and I grew up in a little place called Montserrat that nobody's ever heard of. 5 by 9 miles long. That's what it is. And we used to love that paper, but our paper only came out on Saturday. So I always liked newspapers. And I started to read all of the newspapers here. And it used to make me mad because everybody in the newspaper who was any crime, anything that was bad, it was always somebody, they said, did it. And I said, you know, I don't know any of these people. Why are all these black people criminals? That can't be right. And I said it so many times. My husband says, well, if you don't want to read it, why don't you write it yourself? I said, you know what? That's exactly what I'm going to do. And nobody believed I was going to do it because I'd never seen a paper done. I didn't know how hard it was. Maybe if I knew how hard it was, I would not have done it because it's not an easy job as well, as you know. Yeah. So basically, I don't write myself, so I started to talk to people, and slowly but surely, we first put out a little paper. I call it a 2x4 paper, and we passed it around. I didn't even know what to do with it. Passed it around to all these people. And I said, you know, everybody liked it. So I said, you know what, maybe I really should find out how to do a real paper. And that's what I did. And here I am, 40 years later. Yeah.
And you still love Baltimore. When I look at your office, right there on Charles Street, your son, he lives right off of North Avenue. Your business activities are right in Baltimore.
Everything is Baltimore. Do you know that we bought that house and we've been living there for 30-something years? And we now live on the 3rd floor, and David gave the house to David. David was 3 when he came here. I think 3, yeah? And he's been living in that same spot, Madison Avenue, right in the hood, for the last, 30 years or so. And he's never going to move, he says.
But so do you know how profound that is? Because children who think of North Avenue, if they don't know a David Bramble, they could think something negative.
That's
but
right.
Knowing a David Bramble, a Joy Bramble, a Father Bramble, we know that great things are all around us. That's what you signify.
Try to show that. It doesn't matter where you're born. It's what happens with what you do with your life, you know, how we can change. And we've always tried to talk to young people. I love young people. I'm a teacher. That's my profession. So I'm always beating it to them that it's not where you start, it's where you end up. And that's kind of how I've tried to build my life and how we built our children. So And they've both done fairly well, so I'm very happy with that.
In 40 years, any stories stick out in your mind?
Oh, Lord. Some of the stories are so bad I can't tell you.
But some of the good stories.
I like the stories where we've written a story, and somebody has read the story and would come back and tell us all the things that have happened to them as a result of that. You'd be amazed how many people who read the paper when they were young, they would come back and said, you know, I had to look for you. When we moved, people kept looking for us, and these were all kids, because we always taught children on the weekends, and they would always say, you know what, I had to come back to tell you that everything you told me was right.
The column, I used to read Father Bramble's column, The Overcome. I read it for years, The Overcome. And it always touched me, and as when I finally got to meet him, and you know, we left out St. Catherine's.
That's right. I forgot about St. Catherine's. St. Catherine's actually was was a major part of the building of the Baltimore Times. For one thing, we didn't know when we printed the papers, where were we going to put them? Some husband says, let's put them in church. So we went to St. Catherine's Church. And as a result of that, the paper grew, because they got the people in the church loved the paper, and they would help us to put the papers up. And then we said, if the people in St. Catherine's like the paper, why don't we take it to all the other churches, which is what we did, and we deal with them ourselves. I never knew how many papers, 40,000 papers were, till I went back to my car. We had to deliver those papers every week. Yeah.
There were some people who have worked for you over the years. A couple of names that come to mind.
Rosa Pryor.
Rosa Pryor. We can't forget Rosa Pryor.
Anthony McCarthy.
Anthony McCarthy, God rest his soul.
I know. So we were pretty lucky, because we had very, very good writers, yeah. And people who could guide us. Like, we didn't know what a newspaper was supposed to look like, and they were able to guide us, to show us what to do. Yeah, because we were all committed to this notion that we are only going to write stories about Black people who are doing well and doing the right thing. That was the mantra.
I'm glad that you continue this newspaper. What do you think about this event here?
I think it's wonderful. I think that this place has, I think it's 70 Black artists. Black artists.
Beautiful Black art everywhere, yes.
And people say that Black people can't paint. Or don't paint. You just don't know what to look for them, you know. And the wonderful thing is, the artists, if you want to shop here, you can, and they'll get paid. And so we want to be able to promote this kind of thing for the community. Yeah, there's no other place like this for that. So yeah.
I gotta ask you about that lady sitting over there, Dena Wane.
Oh my God, that's the other good thing that happened to us.
And Miss, what's the lady with the money?
Oh gosh.
She writes the checks. Knock on the door.
Miss Ida.
Please don't forget Miss Ida. We did not forget you, Miss Ida.
I think the blessing that we've had is that the people who came to work at Baltimore Times, if they didn't understand what our mantra was, they left. But the ones who understood what we were about stayed. And we all grew together. Some of them didn't know anything about the newspaper either, like me. But they began to find us. This is really a good idea. I want to work here. And so that's what happened.
I got one more name for you.
Okay.
Because I do not want to get beat up on these streets.
Okay.
Ursula
Oh,
Babb.
my God. That's the other thing. We stole Ursula. Somebody told me, I used to read Ursula's column in the Afro. I loved her writing. And I think, I'm not sure how she came to us. I think she separated from I didn't steal her from the Afro. She separated from the Afro. I think she started going to college or whatever it was. And slowly she began to write the occasional story. And after that, once that was finished, she started to write for us on a consistent basis. So we've been really, really lucky. The writers who are in our paper understand what our mission is. This is about Black people. Black people are doing well and doing the right thing. And we are promoting this. It's part of our community, part of our family. That's it. The promotion of Black people, destroying the notion that Black people are only burning down places and robbers and the thieves and stuff.
Tell them, look into the camera and tell them why they should pick up a copy of the Baltimore
You
Times.
better pick up a copy of the Baltimore Times, because you know what? You never miss what you're going to, you never know what wonderful story that's going to make you feel really, really good if you don't read the paper that week. So if you want to feel good every week, get a copy of the Baltimore Times. Go on the website, talk about it, read it, pass it along to your friends. Everything is free.
Good stuff. We've been talking with the one and only Joy Bramble. Special thank you to Paris and all of the people, Dena, and all of the people on the Baltimore Times team. Special thank you also to Mr. Ronnie Griffin and Frank Johnson for making this interview happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Stay tuned to the Donnie Glover Show. We'll be right back. We'd like to welcome you back to the Donnie Glover Show. We're here at the Best of Black Baltimore, presented by the Baltimore Times. But we're here with Brandon Wiley. Brandon is the youngest licensed mortician that I've ever known here in the state of Maryland. Not only that, comes from the Wiley Funeral Home empire, but more than that, he's a nice guy. How you doing, Brandon?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
He never changed. You've been the same brand. I mean, you get a little gray now.
I get a lot of gray, but I think it comes from the wisdom, being around the funeral industry for as long as I've been, you deal with a lot of different things and trying to grow your business each and every day, get a little gray in there sometimes.
This interview is very special to me, having grown up in the funeral industry. There are not many of us, but I think a brand that we're called UK, Undertaker Kid. How was it growing up in the business?
Well, growing up in the business, it was different, It was hard to bring your friends over because you lived over top of the funeral home. And so living over top of the funeral home could be a little stressor, because you think you're going home from work, but you're still at work. And they just open the door and call you upstairs and tell you come downstairs and do this or do that. So you never really got any separation from your job, and your friends had to come over and they kick it in the kitchen and they listen to you doing business all day, or my father doing business all day. And it was just always immersive. So my friends, they was like honorary funeral directors because they was right there with me. They would go on removals with me, help me when I needed to dress and casket bodies. So it worked out. They still my friends to this day.
Now look, a lot of people, they see the fancy suits, they see the sharp shoes, they see the limos, but they don't know the hard work. That's like the last part.
That's like the last part of it.
Tell me about some of the grueling part.
Well, it's like, first of all, it's like you're working all times of the day. It's a 24-hour profession. So no matter what, if someone passes in the middle of the night, you gotta have your phone. I used to go to Best Buy and get the loudest ringer they had, just so it can sit by my nightstand. So when it rang, I would wake up out of my sleep to answer that phone. I gotta get there. Yeah. And we would go out and make removals, middle of the night, bring their loved ones back. We're working all day, so we go from making arrangements to doing funerals to taking off our suit and tie, going down into the prep room, embalming, dressing and casketing, putting your shirt and tie back on, greeting families for the viewing, taking your shirt and tie back off because you got more work to do in the basement. So it's always been that turnover, and always been that time that we have to dedicate to making sure that the family gets the best last impression of their loved one.
Well, this is one thing that's rarely talked about. Your daddy and my daddy buried a bunch of people and didn't get paid for it.
Well, that's the thing about it. My father always said that you help the people out now because you don't know where they're going to be at in the future. So you help them now when they're in need, and the next time they might come back to you, they may have more money. They may not have more money, but you keep helping them because that's a part of the profession. That's a part of the job. Making that sacrifice and that dedication, not just to the business part, but you gotta have that humanity in. Humanity is so important in funeral service.
So I gotta throw this. We here at the Best of Black Baltimore. When I think of our industry, your industry.
Right.
Your dad, you think of Joseph Brown,
Right.
think of Leroy Diet.
Yes, sir.
What other names come to you? Miss Ringo, Mr. Halstead.
Right. Yeah, those are all Mr. Scruggs. Never forget about Mr. Scruggs. He was like one of the first funeral directors in the game. That he wouldn't even wear the traditional black, blue, and gray suit. He wear what he wanted to wear. He wore a tie when he wanted to wear a tie. He wore his gator shoes, you know, with the sandals in the back. And it was the first, I want to say, they was probably one of the first funeral homes to understand what taking a break was. What taking a break was to mental health and to how much it mattered for living. Because funeral directors were like, oh no, we work all the time. But Mr. Scruggs used to take a week off every year to take his family on a cruise. And that's important because so many times in the funeral industry, we sacrifice the time with our family. Because you know the times when you wish your daddy was at the basketball game or the football game or lacrosse game, but instead he had to tend to a family that was dealing with a loss. You know, so taking that time to make those strides for the mental health, to make sure that your family is good, and creating that bond, you know, not just with the public, but with your family is important.
I'm proud of you and your family. You know, over in East Baltimore, the marches,
Yes, sir.
They got real strong.
Yes, sir.
But as you have come on the scene, you got to be proud of your family.
I'm truly proud of my father giving me the opportunity to grow the business. You know, not being rigid and structured that we wouldn't allow change to immerse inside of the company. And so while immersion happened in the company, growth happened in the company. And so by us being able to go back and forth and figure out how we can continue to evolve the experience, the Wiley experience, you know, and give people some new and exciting things to see. And they like, well, is this funeral service? Yeah, it's funeral service, but you gotta be able to grow. You gotta keep evolving, because if you don't evolve, you get lost. You get stagnated. You know, so we got to keep building and keep excelling and keep expanding and keep finding out what families really truly want.
What does this event we had today mean to you?
It means it's important because, you know, it highlighted a lot of African-American businesses in this city, you know, and it gives them their just due, because sometimes the best of Baltimore, just in the other best of Baltimore, we might not be included in that because the people that are voting for us aren't our people. And so for this opportunity to have this Baltimore Times to take the time to create the best black in Baltimore and to be recognized 2 years in a row as the best funeral home in Baltimore, that really means something to us.
Congratulations.
You know?
Man.
So thank you.
I'm proud of you.
Oh, man.
And you have always been the same. You never switched up.
I
But you know, I had to call Wiley Gator on you.
Yes, sir.
Stay tuned.
Appreciate
You're watching the best of
Thank
Baltimore, best of Black Baltimore, the Baltimore Times, Mr. Brandon Wiley, youngest licensed mortician
Yep, state of Maryland.
in the history
In
of
the
the state.
history of the state of Maryland.
Show.